Mm.
Bum 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 ba-dum. Bum 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 ba da da dun 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 bum 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 ba-dum bum 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 ba da da dun da 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 da. Hi, folks. Hello. Look at all my mighties. I love to see you all. It's so great. Irene, good evening. Vicky from Wisconsin, and Noreen from Pensacola, and Deborah from Bel Air Beach. It's so wonderful to see everyone. Thank you for joining me tonight. It's so great. Hey, Harry, how are you? Christy. Hi. Oh, Christy's in Maine. Christy's all over the country. Joe from Utah. Good evening. Good evening. Is that Maria? Yeah, Maria. Wonderful to see you. Yes, it is so good to see everyone. Saskatchewan. You bet. That's Teresia or Teresia. Lori from Muskegon, Michigan. It's wonderful. San Antonio. That's Junette. It's a lot of the same people. It's wonderful to see you. Really, I feel as though we're old friends. And it does seem like that, doesn't it? So, hi. How are you? For those of you who are new, my name is Joette Calabrese. I'm a homeopath for a long time. For goodness sakes, I don't know. I've been teaching it for 35, maybe 36 years. I've been in full time practice for 26 years. And I give you information as much as I possibly can for free on my blog, my Facebook Live, these Facebook Lives, and of course, on my podcasts. And we do this every single week. I've never, well, I shouldn't say we haven't missed a week here on Facebook because we have had troubles with our technology from time to time. Um, I don't think I'm being subverted. I really think it is a technical issue oftentimes. Refresh. Okay, I'm going to refresh here. Hold on. And we're going to get our Facebook Live friends involved too. So, for those of you who already know me, welcome, friends. Here we go. Here we go. Let's get our Facebook Live people up. And it should be up any second. It's loading, loading, loading. Tonight we have an interesting subject. I love this. Let's get this muted here. All righty. Good. I love this particular remedy that we're going to learn about tonight. It's because it's a mainstay of my practice. It works for across the board for so many conditions, almost all of them hormonal, but not always, not always. So we're going to go through my Materia Medica tonight. Here it is. My Materia Medica that you can purchase if you choose. You don't have to because I'm going to give you a lot of good information tonight. I'm going to be reading from it. And if you already have a Materia Medica, then follow me in that as well. Each Materia Medica is different, as you can imagine. Each author writes different information, which is really fascinating. So, should you think that one Materia Medica will do it at some point, the more you get involved in this, folks, the more you're going to want more Materia Medicas. So, all right, let's talk. The medicine tonight, drum roll, is sepia, sepia, sepia. It's actually only one word. Many times homeopathic medicines they're always Latin, of course, as you know, but they're often two words. But tonight it's just one, sepia, sepia. Oh, look at everybody coming in. Here we go. Let's see. Hi, Joe from Northern Virginia. Excited to join for the first time. Oh, great. Julie, welcome. In a gateway class and loving it from Indiana. Beautiful, beautiful. Those gateway groups are really precious. I don't know any other way of putting it. They're precious to people. They're precious to me. Not only because that's how I started was in a study group, and it really got me going in homeopathy. And but also these are wonderful because you're meeting people from all over the world. Because of course now it's a different world than when I was studying with a group. Since this is all done online now, not all. Some groups actually meet, and it's a great way to meet like-minded folks and learn and learn and learn and learn. Alrighty, so sepia. So we're going to start with this because there are two very important aspects of sepia. And the first one, which is I'm going to paint a broad stroke, is all about sepia and its value in women's conditions. So this is not just in case some people think that homeopathy is like herbs or vitamins or supplements. It is not. Homeopathy treats conditions. It's a medicine that we use for conditions. It's not something we say, gee, just in case I think I'll take this. Oh, nay, nay. Don't do that. These medicines are very specific for specific conditions. Occasionally, we use them as a prophylactic, but only because we believe that something is about to happen. For example, I'm just going to divert for a moment. In my blog that we posted last night on seasickness, I explained that if someone has a history of getting seasickness, or motion sickness before they get into the car, they know every time they're going to get into the car, they're going to have trouble. Then by all means, you would use the medicines that I discussed in my blog last night prophylactically because you already know. But if you don't know and you're thinking, well, just in case, no, I wouldn't do that. I would wait until you know that you have that condition and then you use it. And then next time, use it again for the next event and then the next event, etc. And at some point, when it's clear to you that this is not clearing up, then by all means, you can go ahead and use it prophylactically. Now, sepia is not like that. Most of our medicines are not like that. Sepia, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it because I think it's so fascinating. It's actually made from the black ink of a cuttlefish. So it's kind of interesting. And the reason I want you to know what it's made from is because it's an ocean creature. And because it's an ocean creature, it is one of the medicines. Ocean creatures often are related to iodine and salt and that an uptake of salt, the usage of salt, the uptake of iodine, etc. So it happens to be a very good medicine for thyroid. It's not what I'm going to focus on tonight because it is not one of the main medicines. I would call it more secondary medicine that we consider for a thyroid condition. But if what I start to describe to you tonight about all of the conditions that sepia works to correct, and the woman happens to have a thyroid condition, you've got a dead ringer. You've got a medicine of real measure. So I'm going to read from my book so that I can make it easier on myself. So I'm sure not to forget anything. Okay, so sepia is made from the pigment found in the ink of the common cuttlefish. Cuttlefish are like squid, and they are what often you get them in sashimi. As a homeopathic remedy, sepia is used for a wide range of health problems related to women's reproductive organs, especially during menopause, pregnancy, and childbirth, as well as times of weakness or exhaustion and numerous other physical problems. Now, I'm going to tackle that one sentence because people often ask me, are there any homeopathic medicines that we should not take while pregnant? And my answer is there are a couple, 3. Sepia is one of them. It doesn't mean you don't take it during pregnancy. It means that you take it knowing what you're doing. Make sure it's judicious. You don't want to just take sepia willy-nilly because someone's pregnant. And you don't want to take it in a very high potency, say a 1M or a 10M. You want to stay with these medium potencies, which is 30s and 200s. And you want to make sure that you are using it correctly. If you don't know, if you've not used it, you're new to homeopathy, then I would avoid sepia in the very beginning of your learning curve. All righty. So there's vaginal discharge, pain from endometriosis, PMS, loss of libido, problems with fertility, uterine fibroids, and non-malignant tumors, migraines. That's going to be our second discussion. Liver weakness, constipation and nausea, hot flashes during menopause, irregular periods. Listen to this, that were too heavy or too light, and poor circulation with resulting chilliness can all be remedied by sepia. Now, did you hear what I said? It can be remedied by sepia. It doesn't mean you have to own all of those conditions. I want to make that really clear because people often say, well, Sepia doesn't really fit for me because I don't have migraines. That's not what I'm saying here. Sepia doesn't fit because I don't have this or this or this. That's part of sepia. That's not the way we make it work. What we're doing is we're looking for what is the condition the person is suffering from, and is that condition included in the materia medica regarding this medicine? See how we're doing? We're doing it the other way. Because there's no way one woman could have all of those symptoms. Well, I suppose someone, a uniquely high suffering person could have that, but that's unlikely. These snapshots that I give you in my materia medica of information on these medicines are just that, snapshots, but they are these materia medica is a consolidation of hundreds of years, 200 years. Hahnemann actually proved the remedy sepia. So that means it was back in the late 1700s that he was proving this medicine. So we've known about this medicine and how it's used for that long. So in a young woman, she might have this, this, and this. And in a menopausal woman, she might have that, and that. And then in another older woman, she might have had this or that. So you're not looking for someone to fulfill all aspects of the medicine. And I think it's very important that we make that clear, not just for this medicine, but for all of the materia medica. Okay? Okay. Sepia 200 is a mainstay at the Banerjee, for the Banerjee protocols for headaches. Now, I want to just let you sit there for a moment because, and we'll return to that. But I want to go back to the female conditions. This medicine is particularly good for women who have hormonal problems. What could cause a hormonal problem? Menopause, menarche. I mean, going into menarche can cause a little trouble, right? After a baby, a woman could have a little trouble. Not that that's what we expect, but when those big events occur, then indeed that might be a time that a woman might suffer. Menopause, after the third baby, after the sixth baby, that's a time that we want to consider sepia if these conditions are present. But here's the big one. Here's the elephant in the room, and I talk about this all the time, and I will never stop talking about it. The birth control pill. I know that women believe that it's a boon to society, that's a boon to their lives, and I completely and thoroughly disagree. I've talked about it many times on my blog, and I have alternatives to birth control pills, and I can't urge women enough, not just the pill, but patches and IUDs that have hormones that release hormones, or the Depo-Provera shot, all of those synthetic hormones. Wrong. Not good. Very bad for women in the long run, for the relationship with the husband, for the ability to have children later. It tinkers with a very, very delicate hormonal system, and we never want to play around with that. So if you're already on the pill, I can't urge you enough to get off as quickly as you possibly can. Well, you know how you get off? You just don't take it tomorrow. Really, it's that simple. And then you use other methods, homeopathic methods, to deal with conditions that it may have been helping with, because it's not really helping, it's just suppressing conditions. So for acne for teenagers, it's blasphemous that they use this for teenagers. Disgusting. For heavy menses, use homeopathy for that, my friends. We do not want to use synthetic hormones for a young girl who hasn't even had the opportunity to have a child yet. So sepia is a medicine that is often useful for women who have had trouble as a result of having been on the birth control pill or had Depo-Provera shots, etc. It's a fascinating concept. I had a woman come in to me once, young woman. She was, I'm going to say she was about 32, unmarried, no children. And she came in with severe back pain. She'd been to chiropractors. Of course, she'd been to conventional medical doctors. No one could tell her whether it was her kidneys or it was her. It was not the kidneys. They could eliminate that. It was whether it was muscular or it was not structural in her backbone. Nobody could figure out what it was, and nobody could help her. And she'd gone on suffering with this for, I think, as I recall, this was a while ago, about a year or so. And so, but it was sudden. And I asked her about her period. She said, "Oh, no, well, I don't get my period." I said, "You don't get your period? Why? Tell me what's going on." Well, she says, "I get the Depo-Provera shot." Ding, 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 ding. It's not always like this, but when it becomes clear like that, it's the first thing we think of. So what I thought was, what's the next question? When was that first Depo-Provera shot? Oh, about a year and a half ago. And when did the pain begin? Oh, about a year and a few months ago. So we put the timeline together. And I said, look, I'm not going to tell you that it is absolutely from that insidious drug that's been injected into you that keeps you from procreating, one of the main reasons women are on this earth for, or even menstruating, very important part of the female body, function of the female body. But I suspect that. And so I don't diagnose folks. I don't do that. What I do is I do some detective work, mostly not, I'm not looking for a theory. I'm looking for the potential if there it was an exciting cause. And I believed that this was very likely. So I suggested to her that, first of all, that she take sepia, 200. And I don't remember exactly how we used it. It was probably 200 twice in a day. And then because back in those days I was classical and maybe not repeated again. And no, now I remember. I told her to take it once a month. And to get off of that shot as soon as possible. Well, many times women are very happy with these drugs. So it's hard to convince them. But this young woman was not. She said, "You know what? I never really trusted it anyway. It always felt odd to me. I wasn't sure about it. But my OBGYN, who was a woman, thinks it's just the bee's knees. And so I followed her lead." Be wary, ladies and gents. Be wary of these kinds of people who believe, these kinds of practitioners who believe their drugs are the answer. You always want to read what the side effects could potentially be. And more importantly, when someone is taking a drug of any type, and they now have a condition, you look up, does this particular drug, whatever the name of it is, does this drug cause this condition? Because otherwise, if you look at the insert of what is supposed to be handed to you at the time of your purchase of this medication, of course, she's actually getting an injection once a year. Oh, every time I think about it, it gives me the willies. And so they're supposed to give you this information, and you have to use a magnifying glass to read it to figure out whether or not what you've got is indeed something that this medication causes. Now, let's say what you've got is not included in that insert, and you don't find anything like that. Well, we're still the guinea pigs. They're still finding out what these drugs do to people. And how do we learn that? They give them to people and people complain. That's how it's done. That's exactly how it's done. We're the guinea pigs. In fact, we're in one of those situations right now. So I want to warn you that tinkering with synthetic hormones can cause a need for this medicine, sepia. So the next time I met with her, which was about 6 weeks later, her back pain was completely gone. Completely gone. Not even a whisper of it. And I asked her if she had gotten off of, well, she didn't get off of, excuse me. She was due for another injection. And so it was only 2 months that she was a little bit late, or a month and a half, because she was due around that time. She did not get the injection, but the sepia acted. And then, as I recall, about 6 months later, she contacted me again, and the pain had returned, but not as severely. She had less pain, and it wasn't lasting as long this time. And so she contacted me again, and I said, just repeat the sepia. You didn't get that injection again. Oh, no, she said, I would not do that. So I just said, go ahead and repeat the sepia again. And she did, and she contacted me about 3 weeks later and said, yep, it worked right away. Thank you very much. And that's exactly what we expect, my friends. That's exactly what we want to happen. So it's that's how this medicine works. But it doesn't have to be immediate. We might see it come over a period of time. It's very chilly here. I'm in New York, and it actually is quite chilly. So I've got a shawl on tonight. But now let's talk about headaches, because I know you want to know about that. Many people have them. And the way I use sepia for headaches, there are many different kinds of headaches. Let's start with that, okay? And I have a whole course on pain, including much on headaches. But there are many different kinds of headaches. There are sinus headaches. There are headaches that feel like a ice pick is going through the eye. There are headaches that emanate from the jaw. There are headaches that come from the back of the neck. There are headaches that are from barometric pressure change, from an old injury, a head injury. I mean, we could keep going. There are many different kinds. There are migraines. There are intermittent headaches. There are headaches that cause nausea and vomiting that are actually made better from vomiting, etc. The headache that I use this medicine for is often for migraines. It's not the only medicine we've got, but it is one of the key ones. Particularly if we can zero in and say that this headache is related on some hormonal level. In other words, the headache comes before the menses pretty much every month, or it's the menses and the ovulation segment of the month, or it's a headache that is relieved by menses, or a headache that comes as a result of not getting a menses. So anytime you see a headache that's related especially to female hormones, then we think of sepia. So how do we use it? For headaches, we use 200C. This is a Banerjee protocol. We use 200C one dose every 7 days. Now, the way I learned this originally from the Banerjees was that we don't use sepia during the menses. So it's that weekend when you're going to, I always tell people to take their once a week medicines on a Sunday, because Sunday's a different kind of a day and it's easier to remember, but not during menses. But I will also tell you that I've had people not pay attention to that, and I've also not given it an awful lot of credence, and I've not seen that it causes any trouble. So if you want to be, and not that I would be worried about trouble, but it doesn't cause any discomfort. Let's put it that way. So once a week, let's say every Sunday morning, because that's an easy time to remember. And then we also use medicines in addition to that for the SOS. When the headache appears, we use this medicine or that medicine. I've written about these in my blog and in my pain course. I'm not going to go through all of those, but you can use those as SOS. So, for example, sanguinaria, if it's a sinus headache, or picric acid with belladonna, if it's a migraine, and you can use those, in other words, frequently. Sanguinaria often is with belladonna. We mix those two together. You can also get great headache medicines that are combinations from Boron or from Washington, or if you're a student or client of mine, from OHM Pharma, from Helios, from Hahnemann. These pharmacies have wonderful combination medicines for headaches, and we would use those in the SOS situation, meaning as the headache presents, that's when we might use those combinations, or any of the other combinations I just kind of threw out at you. And sepia 200 once a week, one dose, one day. Isn't that great? Isn't that tidy? It is tidy. Another use for sepia. Sepia is a great medicine for mothers who have just had babies. They are feeling overwhelmed. Sometimes it's after the first baby. Sometimes it's after the seventh baby. And they're feeling overwhelmed. They're fatigued. It's heavy on them. They've just reproduced, and it has been a big job for them. And they spend a lot of time raising their children. They're very devoted to their children. But on the other hand, they feel so overwhelmed. Sometimes this is the psychological aspect that does not need to be there, folks. I want to make that clear. It does not need to be there. The psychological aspect is there's the potential that she might feel as though she just wants to get away from her family. And I know that feeling. I remember when my kids were acting up and they'd be naughty or something, and I would just leave the house. I just couldn't take another minute of it. And maybe my husband would just got home and say, I'm leaving. I can't take another minute. And I would get out of the house, get in the car, and maybe go grocery shopping or something. And you know that while I was grocery shopping, I would think, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get back home. I miss them so much. That's the way we mothers are, isn't it? It is the way we are. We can't stand being with them sometimes, and we can't stand being without them. But if it becomes pathological, that's not a cause for using this medicine. If it becomes pathological, which means the mother is over the top angry, she's not able to control herself, she's feeling really guilty about this, she's feeling really awful that she just doesn't have the patience. She's just burnt toast. She's just about had it with her role in life, even though she loves it. She's fatigued. That, my friends, is sepia. And in that case, we would use sepia 200, and sometimes I use it every 3 days. That's often the way I do it. It's a beautiful medicine put in that fashion, used in that fashion. And then, as I said, if she also happens to have a thyroid condition, then we know that that is going to touch that as well. So that Synthroid perhaps can be completely avoided if she hasn't already started on it, or Natrathroid, or other homeopathic medicines can possibly be avoided. All right, let me see what we've got here. I'm going to look for questions in my Mighties. I see all the people from Denver and Scottsdale and Kansas City, Missouri, and Utah. Oh my, so wonderful. Stormy Florida. Yeah, Florida. Rockland County, New York. Hi, folks. So great to see you. Hi, Rachna. Great to see you too, sweetie. It's wonderful to see all my old friends here. And Tony, wow. Haven't seen you in a long time. Let's see. Oh, she says, hi, Joette. I am older than you, so not right for the academy. Can there be a track out there for those who want to learn? Will there still be? Oh my gosh, I'll stay with Mighties. Love Mighties. There will be Mighties for a long time, I hope, for as long as I'm around. And yes, we'll have the gateway courses, and we'll also still have all the other courses. There's so many avenues for you to study with me. Please don't feel defeated if you don't want to take one thing or another. Dolly says, I love sepia. Yes, you bet. I love cuttlefish, says Leanne. All righty. Let's just see. Let's sepia with many people. I've had conversations about sepia with many people over the last 2 weeks, says Leanne. Yeah, it's a great remedy also for just after the birth, especially if a mom is feeling somewhat depressed. It's great medicine for that. The hormones are just going kaflooey and she needs a little support. It's a great medicine for that. All righty. Birth control. I talked about natural birth control in my blog about 2 months ago. Take a look. I've written about it extensively with some links. All right. All right. Let's see. Major tinkering with hormones. With IVF, sepia could likely help. Yes, it could potentially help, particularly if the conditions that I read to you and others that you'll read about when you read more about sepia are a part of this condition. Absolutely. All right, let me see some questions here in Facebook. Okay, I've given you the frequency, I've given you the potency. I've never used sepia in a low potency. I always use 200. I mean, 200 is a medium potency, is what I would call it. Sepia 200 for girls with chronic headaches, 10 years old. It would not be my first choice. It absolutely would not be. I would think of that quite after looking at many other headaches for young girls. Mag Foss has been wonderful for my girls with menstrual pain. Excellent. Chronic, let's see, 10-year-old girl. Yeah, what is the dosage for sepia? I've got it. For the headaches, well, I already said that. Okay. You got it. Let's see. I think I need to go down a little bit further. Depo-Provera's birth control. And interested in the migraines made better from vomiting. Oh, migraines made better from vomiting is usually, by the way, Nux Vomica. You should know that. Nux Vomica, often a 200, sometimes a 30. My husband, yes. Thank you for saying this, Kathy. My husband used sepia 200 once a week for migraines, and the medicine acted wonderfully. Yes, I'm glad you brought that up because I've really focused so heavily on women, especially of childbearing age or during hormonal times of their lives. And I want to make a point that this can help men as well. Yes. If the symptoms fit, by all means, it can work for a man as well. And he does not have to have had, high estrogen or anything like that. Okay. What is the dosage? We always read the outside of the bottle, folks. When people ask me how many pellets, you read your bottle because each pharmacy tells you something a little different. Okay, we've got that question answered about men. I've had Nat Muir work really well. For the kids' headaches, see, a lot of times children have headaches because of schoolwork or they're hungry by the time they get home. Children who have headaches from schoolwork, I'm just going to give you a quick little extra bonus, is Kelk Phos 3, my friends. Kelk Phos 3, often given right then and there for every few hours or so. All righty. I think I would love to answer all these questions. Would the CP200 work for hot flashes? Yes, it can. We often use it for hot flashes, not the only one. And then read my blog on hot flashes, and you'll be able to put together a good amount of information. I'm afraid I have to dash off. I am going to one of my study groups, my Gateway study groups. If you're not a member of one of those groups, do check them out. I'm sure you will like them. They're very inexpensive and lots of fun. So I have to dash off and say good night to all of you. God bless. Mwah, love you. See you next Monday. And don't stop being curious. Keep studying.